that in the order. I couldn't find it. It's supposed to be right in the middle of the,
That's who's got
Oh,
to.
that subdivision?
Yeah.
Well, it's just a little private lane.
Yes.
Good.
I couldn't even see it on the over.
So on this other one,
Mhm. Oh, okay.
so we got two Macon, and then the Weber, you know Weber.
Yep.
So they're in there, so we've got Steve Church and Don Hillman to make comment. And I'm just checking, Mark Crowley with them.
So Steve and, one don't stutter, just one.
Yep,
Okay.
that'll be just to the Weber one,
Okay.
and I don't see any of them for the other one.
These I can just cross off, right?
And, yeah, you can just cross all that off. And Chuck, anybody hear from him?
Mm-hmm.
Chuck, you hear from him?
No kidding.
No reason to drive both.
I have no idea.
Are you? Okay. Oh, there he is.
It is 9 o'clock. I will call to order the Land Use and Information Committee meeting for December 7th, 2021. Notice has been posted in accordance with Wisconsin Statute 19.8 Fair Open Meeting Law. At this time, are there any general public comments? Have we had a call in or not? Tanya?
Nope, no call-ins right now.
Okay. We'll move on then. The approval of the agenda order.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda order.
Motion by Mr. Padden,
Second.
second by Mr. Pearson. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Approval of the minutes from the November 2nd, 2021 meeting.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Motion by Mr. Brent,
Second.
second by Mr. Conroy. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next, I'll have Jason read the public hearing notice.
All right, so, just in case nobody knows yet, items, CUP 2131, MAP 2113, and CUP 2132 were rescinded by the applicant yesterday, so I'm not gonna read those ones. Notice of public hearing, State of Wisconsin, County of Burnett, Tuesday, December 7th, 2021, at 9 a.m. at the Burnett County Government Center, room 165, Town of Meehan, Siren, Wisconsin, regarding the following: Burnett County Land Use Shoreline Protection Ordinances. Conditional Use Permit CUP 2129 Weber. Public notice hereby given to all persons in the town of Oakland, Burnett County, Wisconsin, that Linda and Harm Weber have made an application for a conditional use permit for the terms of the Burnett County Land Use and Shoreline Protection Code of Ordinances to operate a home occupation business consisting of breeding boarding dogs located at 6849 Sondville Road in the A2 zoning district in the southeast quarter of the northwest quarter, section 15, town 40 north, range 16 west. Conditional use permit CUP 2130 Snyder. Public notice hereby given to all persons in the town of Siren, Burnett County, Wisconsin, that Tamara Snyder has made an application for a conditional use permit for the terms of the Burnett County Land Use and Shoreline Protection Code of Ordinances to operate a home occupation business consisting of income tax preparation located at 7191 Dodd Road in the A2 zoning district in the northwest quarter of the northeast quarter, section 21, town 38 north, range 16 west.
Thank you. First on the public hearing is conditional use permit CUP 21-29 Weber. You wish to state your purpose of your application.
Want us to use this?
Yes, please. That way when it gets recorded.
My wife and I, probably Linda's more involved than I am, so I'm gonna ask her to describe it because she has a better grasp of the actual mechanics of it.
There you go.
Seeking to, have a dog breeding business in our home. We raise golden doodles and have, on average, 4 breeding females. We might have 1 or 2 more, 1 or 2 less, depending upon as they process through. But generally speaking, it's 4 breeding females. We've put in there a maximum, have agreed with our township to have a maximum of 40 dogs. That would be highly unrealistic. The only way that we would reach that is if we were to breed all of our dogs at once. Normally, we don't do that. They're bred 2 dogs, because they bring each other into heat at the same time. So we'd be breeding 2 dogs at one. Then, because they cycle twice a year, those would have a rest cycle, and during that rest cycle, we'd be breeding the other 2. So, that's the basic request that we have, that we can breed these dogs. We have close to 30 acres, 27 some acres. I feel like we've got plenty of land to do this.
Just so you know, these are like our pets.
They're inside.
We don't keep them outside in kennels.
They're in our house.
They're in our house, which can be a little bit chaotic, and dirty.
Don't come to our house, I'm an elf. No, I don't.
But, you know, if you had any concerns about the dogs being mistreated or just lonely, that's not the case.
No.
The opposite is probably true. Anybody that's been to our house knows, they're in our house and just like,
They're pets,
you'd have
treated as pets.
your indoor dogs. I don't know if you have any questions that we could address.
Do you have any questions, Al?
One minor one. I think it's already been clarified by the town's response, but in the initial application and the publication, feeding and / boarding of dogs, and I think you never intended to board
No,
dogs for the public.
No, no.
I gathered
no.
that from the town. You know,
I think it's only because that's the way the occupation of the CUP is listed as a boarding / breeding.
understand, but I just for clarification.
We have no interest in
No
boarding.
public boarding, that's never been part of the plan. Okay.
We have enough.
Any other questions from the committee? I have one. It said,
Yes.
you said 40 dogs. That includes puppies also?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and that would be wildly
Like that's, like,
unlikely. I mean, that would be breeding 4 dogs and all of them having, you know, eight puppies. It's
if
just-
we had all 4 of our dogs having puppies at the same
And
time.
we don't,
That would be.
we don't do that.
We don't,
You could call that an oops.
It would be a definite oops. And the thing is, we don't have any males
at our house,
in our home.
so
So we know who's being bred and we control their,
we control
you know,
that.
their access. So that's not gonna happen. But they kind of pushed us to give them a maximum number.
So
So we said that.
we put that
I'm thinking, you know, it's probably more like 25 or 26,
including puppies.
including puppies.
We
And they never go outside the house.
would need to set something like that, we'll just,
Yep.
as a policy.
Sure.
Any other questions? If not, I'll open the public hearing. Mr. Hamilton.
Morning, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the opportunity. I would ask the committee to give this conditional use permit favorable consideration. The Town of Oakland checklist is in your packet, and I would like to emphasize that you'll note that the Oakland Land Use Planning Committee recommendation, the Oakland Town Board recommendation, and the applicants unanimously all agreed to the additional conditions that the town is requesting you consider for this conditional use permit. The Town of Oakland reviewed this conditional use permit for compliance and consistency with the comprehensive plan, and they found it was compliant and consistent with the town plan, and it is also, in the Town of Oakland's view, consistent with the zoning district. I don't speak for the Town of Oakland, but I was at the meeting. I just want to make that clear. This is a home-based occupation business, and this is something that we do in the Town of Oakland. That's in our comprehensive plan. We encourage that. And this property is very conducive to this type of land use. This is a very proactive and engaged applicant. They've engaged the neighbors. I think they've done a wonderful job preparing for this permit, and I would strongly recommend that you approve this conditional use permit. Thank you.
Good, Don. Next, Steve Pearson.
I'm Steve Pearson. I live in Oakland Township on Jensen Road. I'm a neighbor of the Webbers. and just wanted to say a couple of things in my capacity as their neighbor. I'm also on the Land Use Planning Committee, but today I speak as a neighbor to the Webbers. I visited them prior to the LUPC site visit of their property to talk about potential noise issues with this operation, because we already were hearing their dogs bark on occasion for extended periods of time, although I had never talked to them about that. We had a very congenial meeting talking about the noise issue and how I might let them know if the dogs were making noise and what they're planning to do to mitigate noise concerns. And after our meeting, I felt like we have a plan in place for dealing with possible noise issues if and when they might come up with the dogs outside barking. I also was concerned about the numbers of dogs that might be there. Obviously, 40 dogs is a lot of dogs, and we're just right through the woods and across the street from their home. But as they assured you here this morning, there's no time when all those dogs are going to be outside at once, and it's also unlikely that they'll ever have 40 dogs. We were also concerned about the possibility of boarding, because that is in the CUP application, but again, they've assured us that this is not going to be a boarding facility, but rather a breeding facility. So I felt comfortable with that. One thing I believe that was in the Land Use Planning Committee's recommendation to the town board, and I think the town board forwarded this recommendation to the committee here today, is the request that the CUP not continue with a change of ownership. And that's a key point to me, because at some time down the road, if they decided to sell and move, they'd be all set up for a large dog operation there. And to have somebody come in, for example, with hounds and set up a breeding facility for hounds would be a totally different animal than what we're discussing today. And that would be a great concern to my wife and I, to have that potential for a lot of noise adjoining our property. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comments?
I just addressed that last point.
Sure, go ahead.
In reply to the idea of the permit expiring if we sell the property, we're fine with that. We don't have any interest in that continuing after we sell our property.
Question I got for Jason, is that something that we can do on CUP?
Yes, you can.
After that, it was maybe the one good thing in Act 67 is it provided for that.
Any other public comments? We have not any telephone ones, do we, Tanya?
Nope, there's nobody online.
Close the public hearings. Before we make a decision on this, I'll read the guidelines approval from the following items, maybe from the committee. One, if the committee wants to set a limit on number of dogs, it should be stated as part of the motion. And that was number 5, maximum of 40 dogs, including puppies, at any given time. 2, lock and chain to be installed on the septic by 5/1/2022. 3, follow all local, county, state, and federal requirements for this activity. 4, the CUP would expire upon sale or transfer of the property. 6, no daily, short, or long-term public boarding of dogs. 7, any other conditions deemed necessary by the Burnett County Land Use and Information Committee. With those stipulations, is there somebody wish to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve this CUP with the conditions 1 through 7, just read by our honorable chairman. Second motion.
Mr. Pearson.
I'd like to second it, but add a minor amendment and add creation of the CUP upon sale of the property.
It's in there.
Yep. I was looking for that. Excuse me, I'll just second it.
Second by Mr. Conroy.
I have a question. Can we, limit the breed of dogs? For instance, these dogs are not loud and abrasive the way it sounds, but if, sometime it would change into hounds, and we say they can only have certain breeds.
Jason?
I mean, I guess they kind of said what breed they are operating with. So if we started getting noise complaints, we could always bring them back in front of the committee again, if need be.
That's the complaints that I've been getting, is that they don't want a whole bunch of nippers.
Yep.
I think that's a good point, because if there is a noise issue, it can go back, and changing it to blue tick hounds would probably do that. But I don't think that the Webbers have any intention of doing that. I think we for testimony that this is for golden doodles.
Yes.
And that's the intent, and I don't see you changing to something like Great Danes or anything anytime soon.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. Roll call vote, Mr. Pearson.
Yes.
Mr. Payton.
Yes.
Mr. Blumberg.
Yes. Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Roth.
Yes.
Mr. Conroy.
Yes.
Mr. Bickford, yes. CUP 2129 has been approved. Thank you very much. Next, we'll move on to Conditional Use Permit 21-30, Schneider, Home Occupation Tax Preparedness Business. Schneider, come up and explain her application. State your name just for the record, too.
My name is Tamara Snyder. I'm looking for a conditional use to prepare taxes in my home. And it may extend to doing some accounting, which would probably be off-site. But it kind of goes along with what I've been doing for years. This last year, I had quite a few people there, but there's only so many tax returns that I can prepare in 1 year, and most of the business will be from January through April, if it's a typical tax season. I don't know if you've got anything else you can say about it, but.
Yes, she has been doing taxes for many years. She's owned her own business. She's volunteered for AARP for 10 years. She was the manager of 2 large counties in the southern Minneapolis area and answered phone calls from the IRS in Minnesota for customers who, when they get so busy. She trains people. When we moved out here and retired, she again connected with AARP, but the following year, AARP stopped their tax aid program. Decided to open up her own. Does a lot of business for people that can't afford the high cost of taxes. As her mission statement says, and on her business card, sold time value at a small town price. And there are many customers that she does, and she does it pro bono, because it just costs too much to have taxes done. It's not a big money operation for her. It's something that she believes in. I think we have a position in the county that is needed by the people here in Siren.
Thank you. Committee, have any questions of the applicants? Rob?
Do you have a lot of customers at your home that come there?
It would come there, yes.
Yes.
How many do you have there at a time?
I basically set appointments, so they have a specific appointment, and at this point, I have them spaced out quite a bit,
So I don't usually have more than one party there at a time. I'm not quite sure, you know, how the business would grow, if it would grow to where I have, you know, people waiting. But with the COVID, I've, you know, tried to keep it all spaced apart.
The reason for asking was about parking.
Parking, we got 10 acres. And so but again, like I say, you know, we typically just have one party there at a time. If there's more than one party, it's more or less just somebody dropping their paperwork off. There's a lot of people that I've been doing their taxes for several years. And so I know their returns, so they'll just drop it off, let me prepare it, and pick it up when I'm done.
Any other questions?
State your first name, please. What was your name?
Gerald?
Gerald Snyder?
Yes.
I'll open the public hearing at this time. Is there anyone wish to make public comments on CUP 2130? Have no phone in, so I'll close the public hearing at this time. I'll read the recommendations from the office. Considering approval, then the following items may want to be included in the motion. 1, lock and chain to be installed on septic tank by 5/1/2022. 2, land use permit to be obtained for concrete patio by 5/1/2022. 3, follow all local, county, state, and federal requirements for this activity. Are there any other requirements that the committee wishes to make? If not, so we wish to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve this CUP 2130 Snyder with the staff recommendations for 3.
Motion by Mr.
I'll second the motion.
Blumberg, second by Mr. Payden, right? Okay. Roll call vote. Mr. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Payden?
Yes.
Mr. Blumberg?
Yeah.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Ah?
Yes.
Mr. Conroy?
Yes.
Mr. Bickford, yes. Conditional use permit 2130 Schneider has been approved. You will be getting a notification from the office.
Yep, we'll send you a letter.
Thank you very much. And since we had a request to remove the next 3, which were conditional use permits 2131 Radish, map request 2113 Radish, and conditional use permit 2132 Radish have been removed from the agenda. So we are done with the public hearings for today. Is there anybody that wishes to make any comments? I know some people come in after we started the meeting.
I'd just like to know about the 3 that were canceled or whatever. Are they still on for a later time?
The applicant rescinded them, so they would have to reapply and start the process.
So they will
all
get
over.
notified again?
Yep, if they apply for something, you'll get notified again.
Thank you.
Yep.
You want to explain why they were rescinded or not?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Can I make a question or comment? And I guess this is my question to the committee. I believe this location was pretty prime for commercial residential area like the committee was winging at. And here, the first one out the chute, the township reviews it, negates it. We did not work on it at all, but here's an a very good spot for the type of location you were looking at for campgrounds, and it got denied. And that's kind of what we were telling you to start with. If you go to the township for rezones in a district that doesn't have them, it's going to be very hard for anybody to even apply for one. And they don't even see what the campground plan was, or the committee doesn't see it. There's no negotiating, there's no conditions put on. There's nothing but a rezone. And so this is kind of what we stated before is you go to a new district like this that isn't created, you aren't going to have spots for them to go. So just a comment on.
This was a comment, though.
What?
This was a comment back when they did for the rezone was for the township to have the first go at it. Instead of going through the whole CUP and public hearings and then the township not approving their.
But the question was, where do you put them if you don't put them? Here you had septics available, you had commercial access available, you had I mean, this is where you're wanting to pigeonhole them into this type of location, and this one is the.
Right. Yeah, Mark, I get that too, but I think, I think you and I talked before, I said it's gonna be tough at first till people sort out the new rules, but I don't think this is a done deal yet. I think there's, things can still be happening, and I'm willing to, how it goes.
Yeah, but from what I heard from the owner, I think he's going other places. And if there's a brick wall up, what he told me, if there's a brick wall in Burnett County, they're gonna go other places, which is maybe what you want, but that's just the comment that was made, or that I discussed. So
I don't agree. I think it's gonna take time.
Yeah.
I agree with
And
that.
it's the same thing with the numbers situation too, because with the 25 or whatever, that's enough to make it a hobby or a side business, but not enough to make a business plan. And I believe this gentleman had quite a few other business opportunities going that were gonna be part of this development, and being the strip mall in the front of the property on the commercial part. And so those deals all got shut down because of that, because they could not make the rest of it go. And so there's more than you see on the surface too, but just wanted to kind of let you know that it really shuts down the door, specifically in this one. And I just spoke with him. I saw him at Jason's window a couple days ago after the town meeting and after the campground work group committee, and heard most of the story. So, that's kind of where it's at. I didn't know anything about it beforehand, but, what he was planning was a good plan. And, there isn't a place to go, and so they're gonna go elsewhere, just to kind of let you know.
Good, Mr.
It would be interesting to actually find out the stated reasons why Siren Denial.
I think I was at that meeting, but there was a little confusion as to what he initially offered to do in size and scope that changed, from the first meeting you had with the town board to this public hearing time. They had anticipated 60 or so, and then it came in at 191. So I don't know if that was a contributing factor, but, I think, as Craig said, if they were to go out there and rekindle this, I think there's some opportunity, but it takes rhetoric. It takes a good plan that's well understood. By and large, this guy put a really nice presentation together, but the size and scope of it seemed to be the issue.
Did Siren cite any reasons for denying?
I wouldn't say specifically, no. They just didn't want to make the zoning change.
Okay. Mr. Pearson, go ahead.
I think there were other mitigating factors too, including a landowner who had sort of purchased 10 acres and his and her dream property. In fact, I think those folks were just here. And suddenly they were going to be surrounded by this development, which won't always be the case in these kinds of situations. I think that weighed heavily on the Siren Town decision. This point of information, I don't know.
They cited the road being an issue.
It wasn't me. I have a property that joins on the west side. My access is from Old 35. So it wasn't me that, I have only 2 acres.
Wrong people.
But, the road issue came up because they've got an 1/8 of a mile road, no provision to upgrade the road. Again, I would say, like Craig did, if they could sit down with the township and discuss this another time, it might not pass, but I didn't gather that it was a slam door. I think they were cautious in approving this because they didn't understand it.
The letter from the town, they also cited it did not comply with their long-term planning. So they had a couple issues. Only the drive.
I think it's been stated before that complying with the comprehensive plan is not a valid reason.
On a CUP, not on a rezone.
This is reasonable, yeah.
Point of this whole change of how we did things was to provide the local government with some meaningful input so that they wouldn't in court be told that their input was speculative or meaningless. And that happened. Happened in this case to say no, but another time it may not. So the first time through, you know, it's always going to be interesting to see what.
There's also mitigating circumstances with Mr. Lund passing away, so he wasn't on the board.
And the issue of the applicant being engulfed by the zone without being a part of the zone. The point, the spot zone, I'm not sure that I agree with that, but the plan's consistency, I think, could have been argued either way. But the town made its argument and made its decision. That's bottom line right now.
I think if they would have bought out the concerned parties, that it,
Yeah, that'd have been
I don't see it.
definite change of issue, no doubt. That could still happen, we'll see. We're all speculating now, so not much accomplished by that.
Okay, we'll move on. Number 7, North Country Surveying, McKinsey Estate Preliminary Plat.
Hello, I'm Douglas Crane from North Country Surveying, and we'll see you. I'm here to represent Brian Haugen and his wife, who have 63 acres in the town of Scott in section 26. Do they all have the map?
Yes, they all have the 3 maps.
Okay.
Yep.
And the area is currently zoned RR3, and under the density development provisions, that would allow us for the 12 lots that I've shown on there. He's planning to build on all of those himself, build cabins on each of the lots. We have planned around those building sites. Each lot encompasses a real nice building site. It's a hilly thing, as you can see from the topography map, hilly area. And with regard to the soils information that I've researched, the only restrictive thing would be the wetlands, which of course we're not planning building sites in the wetlands, but it's the slopes that could be a problem. But each area has some flat ground in it, and of course, each site will have a proper soil testing done for installation of the on-site sewer. One of the cabins is already built. I think it's on lot 2. Most of the cabins he's planning to build will be all very similar to that one that he built on lot 2. Are there any questions?
Do you have any questions?
Yeah,
You know I would, right, Doug?
sure. I was expecting it.
Is that adjacent wetland, might that be considered lake bed?
Yes, in fact, in the DNR wetlands map, that pond in the middle of it is classified as a deep water lake.
I mean, the adjoining wetlands probably all at the same elevation, water level?
I'm guessing so, I didn't,
And it looks fine, you're plenty far away.
right.
I was just saying that it's one of those nuances of this, that it may be lake bed, even though it's not navigable lake bed in a sense.
Correct. Yeah, I don't want to argue with anybody about it.
No, I don't think it needs to be.
But, and I looked at the 40-foot setback from the wetlands and 75-foot from, if it would be lake bed. And all of the proposed building sites that we've looked at and actually mapped out there when we configured the lots around them are all well outside of that, any setbacks that.
That's what I thought too, but I'm just looking at it from a point of view of someone not misunderstanding. You'd probably best be 75 feet same long, you know?
Yeah, like I said, the building sites we've looked at and planned are beyond 75 feet from the wetland.
That looked like that to me, I just,
Yeah. In fact, I might have those building sites shown on there, and I think I have the setbacks shown on one of those maps too. I don't remember the name of the soils, it's some complex, with 3 names, you know, but it's all sandy, and, the only restriction is slope.
Carlsberg, Gredham, Parida?
What's that?
Carlsberg, Gredham, Parida, maybe?
That's one of them.
That's the sand over clay over sand one, or, you know, usually not a problem,
Yeah.
especially if it's Parida.
Yeah, and of course, we don't really know, but I just don't think that with the current, rules for code for septic systems, that we're gonna have any trouble getting one. There's already perked on, lot 2 there.
It just depends on where you look, and elevation has some bearing on that. Sometimes, but it's a soil series that's almost unique to Burnett County. Not very common anywhere else.
Okay. I don't know enough about soils to know, but I did look at it and look at the deal, and it's the slopes that's the restrictive factor.
Typically, you might sometimes see a mound or a pressurized system instead of a conventional gravity, but not like clay.
Right.
Works out.
Any other questions? The only question I had is, you put in your letter there, the wetland areas are not suitable for on-site sewage disposal, and then it says the limiting factor for the upland is the slope. They'll still be able to have on-site sewer, right?
Oh, I'm sure. As we were just discussing, the soils is generally acceptable or amenable to having on-site sewer systems. We didn't run around and do soil tests, but the severe slopes are what is the restrictive factor. But we've picked out building sites on each of the lots that are on the top of a knob and are flat, and I just don't, there's not gonna be any problem.
Thank you.
I agree.
Any other questions? If not, is there a motion on the McKinsey Estate preliminary plat?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Conroy to
Second.
approve, second by Mr. Pierce.
I'll take that second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Land Services Zoning Property Information Division report. Oh, didn't we have on there about the committee too or not? We didn't have it on the agenda, but.
No, we didn't really discuss a whole lot.
Okay.
I mean, at the first meeting, I mean, you can always talk about it during future agenda items, particularly.
Okay, I knew you'd had a meeting, I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss something on the agenda.
Let's see here, I gotta get my. So you see the, survey report in there. Draft reports. Tax season has started, so county will be sending everyone their Christmas present, this annual Christmas present again here shortly. Budget report is in there, you'll see.
It's good. You know, every other committee always reports that the budgets are good. I never have, because I look at them, we usually got more money than what we're spending.
Yeah, so this budget report is fine, you know, revenue exceeded what we anticipated, expenses are, online. I have the website statistics in there, again, showing about 300 users per day, per weekday, about 100 per day on the weekends. Zoning reports are in there. See the permit numbers, 112 new dwellings so far this year. 347 sewers, and I know we've done a few since this report was written, so we'll be over 350 sewer permits here. Staff reports for zoning, and that's about it.
Sorry.
Okay. Number 9, future agenda items.
We have one rezone application in, I don't remember what it was, I think it's out in the town of Dewey or over in that neck of the woods. So that's the only public hearing we will have for next month. Then I guess the campground committee, we met.
We met and organized our, month or so. Going to talk with the operators about numbers and density and caps and that kind of thing. We're gonna look into septic system volume. If that in itself constitutes some limit, practical limit for how large a campground is likely to get. Probably provide a bit of a platform for people wanting to talk about why they should be limited as well, but we'll see about that. Generally, we don't think we're gonna need more than 3 or 4 or 5 meetings. Talk about RR3, whether we should or shouldn't be campgrounds in RR3. But that'll be after we decide on caps and how and should and why. And we'll come back with recommendations for the rest of the committee.
And I think the other thing we have is potential ag amendments that we gonna have sometime coming up here in the next month or two.
That'll be coming up. I'm gonna, probably try to get an email to Larry Kopecki about where he's at on developing the new siting ordinance. And I think the land use amendments are actually fixed pretty well. Basically,
I think we did.
Through that and looked at that, but we don't want to bring them forward till we know what the siting ordinance is. You know, the siting ordinance, the issue with that, case I hadn't talked about it, was we proposed some things to county board and found that the state would not support them as being too restrictive. So we decided we would let Larry. Problem we made was our siting ordinance is also an operational ordinance. It's too complicated and goes too far. We'll do the siting ordinance that we can legally do, and then we'll do operations as a second section. That's not part of siting. But we'll do some of the other things we want to do to the extent we can. No. The whole problem with it is that we don't have the ability to acquire a rezone or something for a cable. You know? It's not legal. We are very limited by state regulations on what we can do. In fact, he actually said the greatest preemption of local control is the livestock siting ordinance. The state rules pretty much prevail, but there are some things we can do. About all I can really say on it right now, but according to Larry, he can make the siting ordinance be like 3 pages long. That would be good.
Hey, everyone received the email from Jason on the court ruling on CUP 19-12. It was in our favor. And I guess I'll just mention, I watched the YouTube video from last night's meeting, and the Board of Adjustment did go along with our recommendation to deny the CUP 2109, I think it was.
Yeah, the Yellow River campground, we'll call it.
I imagine that'll be going to court.
I would assume that will go to court.
But it's interesting from the court ruling that we now have, we can read, is that much of the argument that was made last night about the town don't have that authority to deny, the Village of Webster can't weigh in, citizens' testimony is not, it's all speculative and meaningless, is not what the judge said. The judge, in fact, said it's absolutely we are within our authority to hold a hearing and request additional information that's brought to light by the public hearing. Lynn Markham said that about CUPs, why you hate to give them up, is that it allows us to address things that aren't necessarily written in the administrative part of the ordinance. So if it was absent the CUP, Jason would be constrained by what the ordinance says, and some other factor that unanticipated couldn't be brought into play. You know, that is the good thing about not giving up on CUPs, even in the face of Act 67 making it tougher, right? think that was a really interesting decision that she made, that, I find could be provide us some guidance that we're doing things right more than we're not. Make a mistake too, but I don't think we did.
At some point, would we want to study that letter just to kind of reinforce how we state our decision, or the rationale behind that decision?
Yeah, I think there's some.
I mean, we could always put it on an agenda item. I think now would be appropriate that, since we're through both appeals, I think you know, if we wanted to, we could just put it as an agenda item to discuss it.
That's a good point, Jason. We've actually kind of talked about looking at a little bit of tweaking to our CUP language in the ordinance. Maybe map that out a little better on findings of fact and conclusions and whatnot. You know, we've always been reluctant to do like some counties do, which is have a meeting, make a decision, and then direct staff to write the decision that we made, and then come back the next month and move the language that we put in the decision that we made, right? We've not been enthusiastic about doing that, but that's what some counties do.
Yep.
Probably more than we know. Maybe that would be a.
And I think as things get more contentious and more things go and challenged and everything else, I'm sure that trend will continue on. Like the two today, we could say were relatively simple, but if we were doing it like some other counties, we would have made a decision today, we would have went back, drafted some language, and then you guys would have finally approved it next month. So it kind of delays every project a little bit.
We've been, I'm gonna kind of kiddingly say, we've been getting away with that for the most part, but sooner or later, we won't. So I think if we can tighten up a little bit on how we go through the process, it would not hurt. I don't know that we go to that length,
Yeah.
but trying to make sure that we lay out our rationale clearly when we have a lot of contention, and I think important for us to look into doing.
Well, I think if everyone starts understanding that they're gonna come before us and we're gonna figure out what to do, and it's the final decision will be the next month after we get the language written just the way we want to. That's gonna be, I think, most people now think they're gonna come here, have their decision made, and walk out the door ready to do business or whatever they're going to do. So it would take some time to get public used to the idea that.
Well, yeah, I mean, right now, you look at it, it's roughly a 2-month process by the time they have to apply, and then we make a decision. If we went that 2-meeting route, now you're pretty much at 3 months, you know?
And the truth is, for something as innocuous as a bigger scale dog operation, that seems a little excessive, right?
Yes.
But what I've always said, you never know when you do a public hearing, what one is going to be the contentious one. You might think, well, this is a slam dunk, this all makes perfect sense. No, right? That's an
They're lined up all the way out the
yeah.
hallway.
Standing room only, yes, that's what happens, more than we think.
I got a question on the zoning issue. Would we be wise, I think it's the same context, to create the RRRC zones where the RV parks exist now? So it can't be said that there are no zones in the county that are under that thing?
We kind of talked about if they are interested in rezoning to that, we would consider it where they already are, where we already have permits and updates and compliance. And if somebody hasn't been through that, but still wants to look at it, we'd be doing a compliance review, just like we would for CUP. But sure, I think we would do it if somebody needs to apply. I don't think we would.
You can't do it
We can just go around and start rezoning on our dime, but somebody doesn't want to be rezoned, I know that they need to be, because they're a legal non-conforming use now, and they can continue like that forever.
But
They can't expand, but they can't anyway.
the first statement that the applicants made at the town board meeting was, we're asking for a zoning change that's never happened before and none exist in the county.
Right.
So he made it clear in his first statement that this was fighting an uphill battle, more or less. But if we had a couple of them, they couldn't say it.
I would argue that that particular request, had it been a little bit different and they had a buyout of the property that was affected and a few things like that going on, might have had a totally different outcome.
Oh, I'm sure it would.
So you have to still do things right, just because we offer the opportunity. So it's been said by some people I've talked to on the side about this, is we should have had this RC district 20, 30 years ago.
No doubt.
We would have had an easier time of things if we did, but we didn't. So,
And I think campgrounds are a pretty toxic issue right now. If he would have maybe been trying to do some other project in that spot, you know?
I think if he'd have just come and asked for the storage buildings and the improvements he was gonna make to the strip mall, that it could have led to the next thing. I mean, I don't know how soon he's actually intended to do this, or it was gonna be, it didn't sound like he intended to do the whole thing in 1 year in the first place. He was gonna phase it in, so.
I said, talking to people too, that this isn't gonna just snap your fingers, be totally different. It's gonna take a bit. The first time through is always gonna be an issue about that, and this was a really good place to request it, I think. I think we could have made a strong argument for it, but it had a few warts on it yet that didn't allow it to proceed. Doesn't mean it's over there, or rezoned to something, for something else, or that, you know. But the point being, it's a pretty significant change in what we do, and it doesn't surprise me that the first time through, it was selling to the town, and the town thought it looked okay, and then kind of backed off on that after they looked at it harder. You know, we'll see. I don't think that we initiate zoning changes though unnecessarily, right? A lot of, you know, there's a number of campgrounds in Webb Lake that would be totally eligible for that, and those could happen, you know. I'm thinking like Oak Ridge or Webb Lake Campground would be, fit that pattern of mixed use already there, and it would be rational to do it.
But currently, if they don't change the zoning, they wouldn't have any cap imposed on them. They'd be grandfathered. So they could expand beyond the cap number if one was placed on.
No, they couldn't expand because they're a non-conforming use right now. Can't expand a non-conforming.
Yeah, and they have CUPs that have cap numbers. That's how we operate the campgrounds.
So, but in the permit they have, you know, if they didn't develop some sites, sure.
Yeah.
But they can't exceed what they've got approval.
Anything else that should come before this committee? John, I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. This is quite a present we got today, getting done this early.
I have about 2 hours to kill. We can keep talking.
If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second it before you get going here.
Just so you guys know, the administration committee is meeting Monday, December 20th, and the county board meeting is gonna be on Tuesday, the 21st.
Tuesday the 21st.
Haven't we been notified of that?
Yeah, thank you for that heads up. I noticed that,